Okay, so now we're going to go, pew, 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 but it's going to be space lasers. Okay. Uh, the lab today is a Star Wars lab. Purples. Yeah, you got it. Purples. Watch out. That could be your next nickname. Mingus Purples. um, yeah, so today we're going to start the hacking lab. It's Star Wars themed, but it really is just testing you for hacking, right? So the Star Wars story just makes it a little bit more fun. And it abstracts some of the some of the concepts away from human beings a little bit, but you're going to see like there's a bit of a retro feel to this as well. So there's a lot of old operating systems coming in here, so you're going to have some nostalgia experiences. Okay. Um, so it's out today. It's due in 2 weeks' time. And I'm going to give you 3 classes to work on it, so you get quite a chunk of lab time to work on it. But then you get an extra period of time where I'll be actually covering new material, but you'll still have a little bit of time to kind of get everything together. Okay. At the same time that this is due, you're going to have the hacking quiz. So in 2 weeks' time, we're going to have that quiz. My idea being that by doing this lab right now, you're going to be well prepared for the quiz. The quizzes are always easier than the labs. Okay. This is the easiest of the labs. I'm not saying it's easy, but it's the easiest out of them all. So if you're going solo and you're finding this a challenge, then consider that the next lab will be harder and you might want to team up. Okay. If you're going solo and you find that this is pretty smooth, you might still find that the other ones are a little more challenging. So just be prepared for that, okay? If you're in a team, that's really what I recommend anyways. So, so let's get to this here. Okay, so this is worth 15% of your mark. Um, and in groups of 2 to 3. That's what I'm asking for. If there are circumstances where I'll be like, yeah, okay, you can do a group of 4. That's usually when there's a person who wants a group, but there's no groups of 2 around. Okay, I don't really do it otherwise because I don't feel it's enough work for everybody. Unless, yeah, for the most part, I feel it's better at the 2 to 3 number. Just some bits of guidance here. When you're doing this and you're downloading all the VMs, say that you moved the VMs. Okay, don't say that you copied them. The reason is it will change the networking if you say that you copied it, and sometimes that blows away statically coded IP addresses, which can make it harder to work with the whole thing. Okay. So solo is okay, but if you change your mind, you need to get somebody not by the 9th, but within the by next class, essentially. Would like to find a group, please. Anybody wants? Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I mean, it's always if you're a group of 2, group of 3 is always better, honestly. So I'm gonna say second work block. Um, yeah, okay, good. So solo is okay, not Han Solo, but working solo. But if you change your mind, do it by the start of the second work block. So you got to find a team. Okay, so like Simon's doing. If you don't have a team, Simon's looking for a team. If you are a team and you're 2, you may choose to go for 3. That's a good idea. Um, and I'd like to know who's working with who. So let me know just in case I need to pair extra people up. Okay. Um, all right. So let's get into this here. Oops. Nope. That's the wrong thing. Darn it. I think I just closed my window. Did I? Yeah, I'm pretty sure I did. All right. Hold on a second. There we go. Table of contents, computer forensics. I don't know why it took me here. Okay. Hacking, lab hacking. Let's download this puppy. Your tabs are like every grandmother. Totally. Yeah, my daughter really bugs me about that. But I like it that way. I want everything open at the same time. Okay, so you're going to work in teams of 2 to 3 people. You can work alone. We're going to track everything that we've done in the exercises is going to come up here. Okay, and this is a multi-stage, multi-part lab. So you got to get past the first hurdles to get to the next level. You know, and we're dealing with different operating systems, mostly Windows. There's a little bit of Linux, but not too much. Each level leads to the next one. You may decide to divide up the tasks as you like, or compete to see who solves the first part, but the mark is collective. I don't usually recommend that people divide it up into the parts because when it comes to the quiz, a lot of this stuff is going to come in as well. So it's usually better that you just share information a lot and make suggestions to each other within your group. Okay. But that everybody kind of vets the outcome well. So you'll submit as a group. There's just going to be one document for the whole group with everybody's names on it. Okay. And for this to work at home, I'm just going to mention here, your home config has to match our traditional setup, right? And so if you go back to useful links, I have a little video about setting up networking. You want to make sure that you're compatible with the way that we have it set up. So 202, 201, 204 for VMnets 8, 1, and 4, right? So go check that out if you haven't done that yet. And this is just the description in a bit of a pseudo Star Wars-like way. So the Empire is trying to build Death Star 2.0. So, an improvement over the first one. Rebel forces are looking for information on a long-lost device that used to belong to Han Solo in the previous war. So, I'm messing around with the lore here. It takes you to a remote part of the galaxy to a system called VMnet 1. And here, you're going to have to gain access to Han Solo's system and hopefully find the information you need to hack into the Death Star system that they're building, bring an end to the threat that the Empire represents to the Free Republic worlds. Okay. So your first task, when we're trying to get Han Solo's system, I'll show you Han Solo's system right now here. Let me just see. Okay. So, oh yeah, first, before I do that, I'll show you where you can get everything. So this is just SharePoint. Okay. So on DMIT SharePoint, if you go into DMIT 2509 Computer Forensics Lab-Hacking, all the files that you need for this lab are here. Okay. Now, the Han Solo PC is the one that I'm looking at right now. And I'll tell you the order in which we need everything because I know the downloads can take a while sometimes. Okay. All you're really going to need right now is the R2D2 hash and the R2D2 HC file, as well as these text files, these droid dictionaries. So that will allow you to start working on the lab, and we're talking about 200 megs, essentially. Okay. But you're going to need all of these VMs. And so, those will take longer, but you're not going to need them all right away. Okay. So you want to start downloading some of these. I'm going to say hold off on the Death Stars for now, because I just want to check and make sure that they're there's expiry issues with the licensing sometimes. So I do want to vet that, but don't waste your time downloading it yet. It's saved for the end anyways. Okay. So the idea here is you want to get into Han Solo's PC. And this is his PC, but when you power on the virtual machine, you're going to see that you're going to get a TrueCrypt bootloader, and it's going to ask for a boot password. So what that indicates is that this is an encrypted disk. Okay. So you're not going to be able to get very far with this until you can get that password. And the password is actually stored by R2D2. So R2D2 has it in his memory cells. He's long gone, but we still have the memories, his memory. Okay. The thing is, his memory is encrypted as well. So we want to get into Han Solo's system, but to do that, we have to get past R2D2's encrypted memory. So to get past this, we actually have to go. Oh, second. We actually have to go and download his encrypted memory, and we want to run a password cracker on this particular hash, which is the actual password to Han Solo's. That's the password to R2D2's memory. Okay, so we need to crack that. The way we're going to do that is with some kind of password cracker, and that's your first task. Okay, so what I give you here is a couple of droid dictionaries where I'm just giving you a list of droid words, and you have to feed that in and try and use that to crack that hash. Okay. So as you can see, this is not exactly, human friendly, but it doesn't have to be. You just have to take that as an input, apply it to this hash, make sure that you get a matching hash, and then apply that to this HC file, the password that you get out of that. Okay. Once you get in there, you have to poke around and find Han Solo's boot password. Okay. That will allow his virtual machine to boot up. So we'll go back there. Wrong here. Hold on a second. No, that's not what I want. Ammo. I'm having a little bit of a. Just give me a second. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. It's misbehaving a little bit. Why are you not working? Oh, I know. That might help. Okay, that'll probably do. Okay. I'll reshare here. For some reason, my taskbar on the machine that I'm on is overriding the other one. So, okay, so once you get that password from R2D2's stored memory, you can get this to boot up, but you're still going to have an encrypted operating system. You're going to have to use Kali to hack into it. Okay, and that's going to be the second deliverable that I'm going to want from you. Okay, so deliverable one is to find R2D2's encryption password, use the password cracker to break that hash, and then tell me how you did it. So in terms of detail, basically, I want you to explain the steps that you took. They don't have to be in super big detail, but I want to know the tools you used, who worked on it, and what kind of problems you bumped into. Okay. Deliverable two, that's, once you've managed to, well, that's basically the boot password to the Han Solo PC. Uh, in order to get that, that's really just part of deliverable one. Okay, so once you get in there, you're going to have to sort through the data, find it, just identify any kind of issues you had, which team members worked on it. Okay. Once the system's actually booting up, you're going to find that it's a Windows XP system. Okay, and you're going to have to hack into it. So you're going to use Kali. You have to say how you got into the system, and what you're looking for is a URL to basically a URL to tell you where to go next. Okay, that should be pretty clear. It should stick out to you pretty clear. We're just looking for a PDF document. Okay, you open up that PDF document. There should be a URL in there. But you do have to watch out for booby traps. Okay, so Hans device is encrypted. Once you have access to the system, you'll find a PDF document that contains information about the IP address and the URL needed for the next stage of your mission. Watch out for booby traps. What does that mean? It means depending on how you go about it, I may set you back a little bit. Okay. Part two. So once you've got that IP address and that URL, that's going to take you to a certain VM called Cloud City. Hold on a second. Da-da-da. So, why is this? Oh, it's because that's a remote connection. Let's make it big again. Okay. Okay, that's going to take you here to Cloud City. Cloud City is just a Linux system, and we're not trying to hack into the Linux system per se. Excuse me. It's hosting a website, and we're going to do some SQL injection on it. Okay. So the purpose of the SQL injection is to get a list of usernames and passwords to gain access to the Star Destroyer. Okay. The Star Destroyer is a Windows 7 system. So once you've succeeded in doing some SQL injection, you've got the list of passwords. This Star Destroyer is really locked down. You can't hack into it through Kali, okay, because it's blocking all ports. So, but one of the passwords, one of the username password combos will get you into this system. Once you get in, that particular account doesn't have any special privileges. You're going to have to escalate privileges. Okay, so one of the two hacks that you've practiced before that we've talked about in the class, you can try either one of those. But I'm also open to any other method that you come up with for gaining admin access onto this system. Okay. Uh, Once you actually do gain admin access onto the system, what you'll find is that there's no networking available at all on the system because the NIC is disabled. Okay. You got to turn on the NIC. So that's the administrative task that you need to accomplish. Once you do that, that's when the Death Stars are going to come in because is joined to this machine is joined to the Empire domain. Okay. And the Death Star 1 and Death Star 2 are domain controllers within that domain. So at the moment, this Star Destroyer has no networking. You're going to find that it's a challenge to actually authenticate with anything. Once you actually enable the NIC, then you're going to be able to probe Active Directory for information on accounts. Okay, and so that's some of the other deliverables that you're going to have to produce. Excuse me. Once you get that far, that's when the Death Stars come in, and I just want to give you a bit of advice on that. Excuse me, let me just cough. Hopefully that's over with. Okay, so once you hack into the Star Destroyer, then's the time when you can actually start using the Death Stars. Now, in terms of recommendations, you don't need them until that point. So once you get to part three, you need the Star Destroyer and both of the Death Stars turned on at the same time. Okay. Um, each of these machines has a snapshot associated with it. Okay. Now, it's important that Death Star 1 and Death Star 2 not be rebooted. So currently, they're in suspended states. Okay. So what you have to do is bring them out of suspension and then try and hack into them. If at any point you reboot the server, you're going to lose information. The way that you fix that is to go back to the snapshot, okay, and then just bring everything back up again. So watch out for that because basically the first Death Star is a Windows Server 2008 R2 system, and the main domain controller is the Windows Server 2016 server. Okay. The Windows Server 2016 is pretty well patched, and so you're not going to have a lot of success hacking into it. 2008, on the other hand, has more flaws. And so what we're going to do is leverage that legacy system to be able to gain access to the more better protected Windows Server 2016 Death Star. Okay. So part 4 also requires Death Star 1 and Death Star 2, but you don't need the Star Destroyer at that time. Uh, the amount of RAM you need at any given time for this particular lab is maybe, you can manage everything with 16 gigs of RAM pretty much at any time. Okay. But you don't need to run everything all at once. So when it comes to the parts, I'm just telling you what's actually needed. Everything else doesn't need to be on at that time. Okay. Okay. So continuing on here, you've got to make your way through the empire.gov. You want to explore the Active Directory, cross-reference what you got from your SQL injection, figure out which accounts are usable. That's pretty easy. Part 4, this is where you're going to come in and use some tools to try and figure out the Emperor's password, and that's the ultimate goal. Okay. The Emperor is essentially the only domain admin on the system. And if we can get his password, then we can shut down all of the servers. And actually, our goal is just to log in to the Windows Server 2016 system, and then we're going to shut it down. Okay. So your deliverable is just to give me the username that gains you access to Death Star 1.0, which is the Windows Server 2008, and then I want the Emperor's password. Okay. And so once you get that, you'll get this little kind of game over kind of, you've done it kind of pop up. And you can just take a screenshot of that. And that's enough for me to know that you actually got it working. This is the rubric and how you're marked. So this is what's worth what in terms of deliverables. Some sections are easier than others, and so they're worth less. Okay. So the biggest thing is deliverable 7, really. I give you 10% just for making recommendations or providing feedback on the experience in the lab, things that you had trouble with, things that you like, things that you'd like to change, okay, that kind of stuff. So, I mean, it's not hard to get at least 10% in this lab, assuming that you say something, somewhat useful. Now, down below, there are hints for each part of the lab. So just URLs that you can visit. You can consult these if you're really stuck. But if you're not the type who really wants to rely on that kind of thing, then don't look any further down. Okay? But it is there if you're in a pinch. So just so you know. Okay, any questiones? Regarding the HC file, when I did the exercise password hacking, where I will use Mimikatz, I could not extract it, so I used the Mimikatz I found on GitHub, and it worked. I finished the exercise. So the question is, what tool should I use to extract it to make the password? Okay. First of all, there's not a fixed answer to that question. I'm not expecting a particular tool to be used. But in the case of the Droid dictionary, you could use John the Ripper. Okay, Mimikatz is not going to help you in this case because it's not installed on a Windows system. It's just a hash, right? So you need some kind of method for being able to figure out whether a dictionary of words matches a particular hash. That could be Hashcat, that could be John the Ripper, which we've worked with. But there are also other ways of doing it. There's not just a single approach. And so I'm glad you asked that question because I'm perfectly okay with people stepping outside of things that we've done in the exercise. The exercises will always give you some way to accomplish a goal, but that doesn't mean that you have to follow that way. Okay? So in answer to your question, John will work for you. but it's not the only game in town. Okay. Any other questions? Yeah. Yeah, no problem. Okay, well, questions may pop up to you. So, like kind of talk amongst yourselves, uh, form your groups there, and let me know who's who. And like just maybe choose one member in the group who just lets me know, yeah, yeah, we're together. Okay. Anybody who's looking for a group, like Simon's kind of indicated he's looking for someone. Anybody else who's interested, you can send me a message or you can just advertise it in the chat and sort it out amongst yourselves. Okay. But I'll kind of link people up if I'm aware that there's a desire. Okay. Okay. Um, the idea of making this a group project is for ideas. Um, it's really about managing frustration. But it is for ideas. I find that people can get stuck on a particular area, and it's like they got blinders on and they can't really step outside of it. And another person looking at it will see it differently, you know? So I do feel that's kind of useful. That's why I encourage people to chat within a group, and it's kind of like that's the legal way that you can talk with your classmates, right? Is you form a group. Across groups, I want you to be very, very generic. Like don't tell each other how to do things, but you can kind of say, well, I suggest you look into this idea, you know? Like for example, just with R2D2, where I just said, John will work, right? Like if you've already solved it and someone's really stuck, you could say, well, you might want to try this tool. We had success with it, without getting into any further detail, you know. But within your group, you guys can talk as much as you want, essentially. And so if one person just doesn't get how this worked, you can help each other understand it, you know. Okay. Any other questions before I let you go? Doesn't mean you can't ask a question later. Okay. All right. Have fun. Now I'll just remind you, I'm going to be evaluating Death Star 1, Death Star 2. So don't rush to download those.